I think we see people that are all the way out, but also some that are all the way in that are really wrestling and trying to reconcile some pretty hard things. Not that we have conclusions or answers, but just more. I think it's so important to have dialogue and to just be in conversation about some of the more challenging and sensitive topics. There's a new one connected to more of an explicit hard stand on Joseph's polygamy. And we want to just talk about that's interesting that that is a really, that seems to be a stand that is gaining traction. And I think what we can arrive at as a community is in 2025, we understand the harms of patriarchy. We understand
Mhm.
that one of the most abusive ways that patriarchy is practiced is through multiple wives. It's a power structure that absolutely, destroys the women because it turns women into objects.
I don't know when organizations are going to learn this, that when you try to hide what is, and especially now in our information age, you just cannot keep that down.
Good theology is good psychology, which leads to good psychological and mental and relational health, which I think is exactly why we can look at anything that makes people sick theologically and feel confidence in questioning it. Polygamy and
Yep.
patriarchy does not lead people to flourish. And so to me, that ought to be the leading edge of what we're talking about.
No, you won't be forced into it. It will be your choice. When you get to the next life, you'll be a little more perfected, and who knows? Like, it may just not bother you anymore because when you're more perfect, then it'll be easier because you just won't have those jealousies, but you don't really have to worry about it too much.
Thank you for that.
But it is bananas to me. I feel like the church was never wanting to talk about Joseph's polygamy. The church was not doing that, and so I think if you told young me that they're now coming out saying, "No, really, it was Joseph," that would have been bananas to me then.
I didn't believe in a God that would do this to women. That has always been a pain point in my
Yeah,
memory because
yeah.
it doesn't make one feel comfortable about our own doctrine and beliefs when you start really, like, in practicality, dealing
Yeah,
with death and divorce and cancellation of sealings and the inequality and that whole thing, and just hearing, "Oh, it'll all work out," and still feeling very like, "Huh, I don't know how I don't one ought to long for heaven."
this was hard. No one liked it. No one liked it. They did it anyway. They prayed about it. They did it anyway. It was really hard, and they did it anyway. Like, you start to question and have your own feelings about things. And you're just soft. You just don't wanna do the hard thing. What this does is it reduces a woman's questioning. It really narrows her question to the Lord of, it's just, am I getting on board with what the man says or not? And the whole purpose of me praying about it is to get on board with what the men have told me.
And if you think about that, I know you've probably worked with this kind of thing yourself. I know I have, and I've done a lot of study on how there is such a prevalence, an increase in abuse, inclusive of sexual abuse in patriarchal structures, because a woman is socialized to curtail her own voice, to curtail how does she feel about something because she is so early taught to respect the male authority figure and what he says is right and good and proper.
I think that, I don't know, I like to try to be very open-minded to, like, how people can make consensual choice in their life. The polygamy combined with patriarchy is terrible because it just lends itself to coercion, to spiritual manipulation. And how weird that it's right when Joseph asked, then God's, "Oh, yeah, by the way, that's a commandment. Go do it."
Boys are seen as superior in even actual God's eyes, and our church is struggling with that still. But the alternative is that if we don't have some conversations that may seem a little bit out of their range, what's passively being internalized is really hard to heal from